Hello everyone, very good evening to all of you. Hello Vicky, hello Satvik, Indrajit, Himanshu, very good evening guys. So I hope I'm clearly visible and audible to all of you. Please confirm once and sorry for this slight delay. There were some technical problems because of which I had to start a bit late. So is all okay? Good evening guys, very good evening. Hi Himanshu Singh, very good evening. So is all okay? Hi Rishi Chog, good evening. Good evening, VM. Very good evening, Indrajit. So, I again welcome you all to BYJU'S exam prep and to this session in which I'll be talking about 30 days preparation strategy for Z 2022. So, CAT is over now. IFT is day after tomorrow. Anyways, we cannot do anything about it. But yes, Z is still there. So, this is the second biggest exam after CAT that we have. Which will be held in the first week of January, first Sunday of January this year. And of course, everyone would be looking for XLRI Jamshedpur, though there are a list of colleges that will be taking CAT scores. But today I'll be talking about Z, that what is the difference in Z with respect to CAT, IFT and all, and what all changes we have to make in our preparation according to that. And yes, the schedule for 30 days. So what should you do in the upcoming 30 days now for Z? So this is all that we are going to discuss today. So yes, everyone is saying audible and visible. So I think that is okay. Good evening, Vikas. Good evening, Pushkar. Good evening, Sidji. Very good evening and good evening to all of you. So I think we can start with our session now without any delay. Anyways, we had a bit of delay already. So let us start with this. The first thing that I am going to discuss is the XAT exam structure. Of course, first I'll talk about the exam structure. Only then we can talk about the preparation strategy. What are we going to do in the coming days? उन सारी बातों के बारे में तभी बात कर पाएंगे. Let's first talk about the exam structure first of all. कि exam structure क्या है हमारा? So let me just work out with my video a little bit because it is coming on that. तो थोड़ा सा मैं इसको ऊपर कर देता हूँ ताकि चीजें आपको आसानी से दिखाई दे जाए. Right? And yes, I think it will be okay now. Okay जी, so we'll start with the Z exam structure over here first of all. पहले उसके बारे में बात करेंगे so that we can talk about the other things accordingly only. So क्या क्या आता है Z में? First let's talk about it. Okay. So when I talk about the Z exam structure, so if I talk about the last few years, the structure has almost been of the same type as that I have seen or shown you on the screen, which was the structure last year as well. So if you talk about last year, of course, the number of sections has already been always been the same. Verbal ability, decision making, quantitative ability, and GK. So these are the four areas that will be asked to you. Of course, I hope that many of you would be knowing about this, that when I talk about GK over here, okay, so GK is one section which would not be considered for your score in your scorecard, the score which is there, the percentile that you get, the Z percentile. So GK would not be considered for that. So GK section का जो score है, that will be considered by only XLRI for their admission process. Otherwise, it would be written in the scorecard, but it will not be a part of your overall percentile. ठीक है, उसमें इसका contribution would be nil. So your overall percentile would be formed by verbal ability, decision making, and quantitative ability. GK is not a part of it. So if I talk about last year, there were a total of 100 questions. 26 questions were from verbal ability, 21 questions from decision making, 28 questions from quantitative ability, and 25 questions from GK. So basically अगर देखा जाए, so the major part of, I mean the more important part of your Z paper, which is non-GK part, was of 75 questions. And what was the time allotted for these 75 questions? 165 minutes were given for these 75 questions, and 15 minutes were allotted for your GK section. Those 25 questions, uske liye you had 15 minutes. So this was the structure of Z last year. The number of questions more or less have remained the same, almost around this only, जो मैं आपके सामने लिख रहा हूं यहाँ पे. So next year also, I mean in the upcoming Z, you can say that the number of questions are going to be almost of this range. There might be plus minus 1 as they have been in previous years as well, but the possibility is कि तकरीबन इतना ही रहने वाला है, एक क्वेश्चन ऊपर एक क्वेश्चन नीचे, that might be a possibility. So that is the exam structure of Z, that how many questions are there, how much time is given to you. So this is about the structure of the exam. Second thing now I am going to talk about is the cutoffs. ठीक है, the second most important part कि cutoff कितनी जाती है. So today morning in the afternoon, I think I took a session at 1 o'clock. So many of you would have been there. There I talked about IIFT, and in IIFT I told you that normally the sectional cutoffs are pretty low, whereas the overall cutoff would be very high with respect to that. I mean sectional cutoffs है 5555 let us say, तो 5555 20 बनना चाहिए, but overall cutoff would be around 45. This does not happen in case of Z. So when you talk about Z, what are their sectional cutoffs? So if you look at the biggest course for which people would be writing Z is XLRI's business management program. So if I talk about the BM program, XLRI offers basically two programs. One is business management, the other one is HRM for human resources management. So for the BM course, you would see, so they actually give different cutoffs for males and females, and not only males and females, rather male engineers, male non-engineers, female engineers, and sorry, and female non-engineers. So 4 kind of cutoffs would be there. So engineer, non-engineer, वैसे there is not much of difference. That is normally there in the HR course, not the BM one. So if I talk about the BM course over here, so these are the cutoffs which were there. That in quantitative ability, the cutoff was somewhere around 9 to 10 questions. 84 percentile was required for the males, 75 percentile required for females. That was the sectional cutoff. Similarly, when I talk about decision making, there was 7 and 8. Right, approximately 7 to 8. Percentile is 74 for males, 70 for females. For verbal ability, it is 76 and 70, and overall you see 94, 92. Now, at which score you will be getting this percentile, this was not mentioned by them. So I have just taken a random idea from the paper that how many questions this percentile would have been there. So around 9 to 10 questions would have given you around 85 percentile in quantitative aptitude. 7 to 8 would have given you 74 percentile in decision making. Similarly, 8 to 9 in VA would have given you 76 percentile, and overall 32 से 34 के score पे you get 94 के करीब percentile. Now, if you look at the sectional cutoffs over here, right? So quant mate is around 9, 10, DM mate is around 7, 8, VM mate is around 8, 9. When you add them, this adds up to somewhere around 25, 26, right? And overall cutoff is 32, 34. So that is not very far off, right? इसका मतलब ये है that you have to do all the 3 sections almost equally. Only then you would be able to clear the cutoff, which is not the case in IFT. In IFT, you can do this, that you just spend 15-20 minutes on each of these sections, but on one of these sections, you spend an hour to maximize your score. Or on 2 sections, you spend 45 minutes each. So that can be done in IFT, but Z में वो नहीं हो सकता. You have to spend almost an equal time on all the sections so that you get the same score. Okay? Your cutoffs are also cleared and your overall cutoff is also cleared. This should be there in the scenario of XLRI BM course, rather I would say for any other course as well. Almost the same thing is going to happen. I hope all of you can hear me. I do not see any chats for long time. शुरू में कुछ गुड इवनिंग्स वगैरह आए थे. Yes, audible and visible. उसके बहुत बाद से मैं देख रहा हूँ अभी तक कुछ भी नहीं आया. Is all okay? Am I clearly visible and audible to each one of you? No problems over here. Please confirm once. Is all clear? All okay? सब कुछ ठीक ठाक है, ताकि फिर मैं जल्दी आगे बढ़ पाऊं इसको लेके. सब ठीक है ना? So these are the cutoffs for XLRI college, and yes, under Z actually you have a plethora of colleges. It is not only about XLRI. You have XIM Bhubaneswar, you have SP Jain, you have Goa Institute of Management, you have Loyola Institute of Business Administration. Then there are many other courses, MICA and all. So I mean I just have to check. ठीक है कि आजकल में हो सकता है कोई कॉलेज वुड हैव गॉन आउट ऑफ दैट, पॉसिबल है, कैट लेना स्टार्ट कर दिया हो या किसी ने अपना एग्जाम लेना शुरू कर दिया हो, बट जनरली हाँ पहले ऐसा रहता था कि यही लोग करते थे ऐसा. Satvik has a question, will non-XLRI consider sectional cutoffs? Yes, Satvik, though not all of them, but all good colleges take sectional cutoffs. Some of them take very nominal one, but some of them take a good sectional cutoffs as well. वो कितना कितना है, I think you can check that by going to their websites. It will be clearly mentioned over there. अब हमारा बुढ़ापा आ गया, वो सारा कुछ याद नहीं रहता, तो थोड़ा थोड़ा जो ऊपर ऊपर के जो अच्छे कॉलेजेस हैं, वी जस्ट रिमेंबर दोज फिगर्स, अदरवाइज भूल जाते हैं. Rather, I appeared for XAT last year. I'm appearing this year as well. So though I appeared for XAT last year, but still, how many questions were there? I mean, I did not remember that. I have to find it out from internet. मैंने सारा सर्च मारा, कितने क्वेश्चन आए थे, तब मुझे याद है, oh, these many questions were there. What was the quality of questions? कितने difficult थे, कितने नहीं, वो मुझे फिर करना पड़ा. Okay. Rahul कह रहे, does line K students can clear interview? Of course. Therefore only they are asked. They are called. नहीं राहुल, अगर वो कॉल कर रहे हैं, दैट मीन्स दे कैन क्लियर इंटरव्यू, ऐसा नहीं है, ठीक है. सो बट दैट डिपेंड्स अपॉन द सिलेक्शन क्राइटेरिया एज वेल. इन सम ऑफ द कॉलेजेस, आफ्टर यू आर कॉल्ड फॉर द इंटरव्यू, ऑल आर एट द सेम स्टेज, ठीक है, बिकॉज दे डोंट गिव एनी वेटेज टू योर रिटन स्कोर इन द सेकंड स्टेज. इन सम ऑफ देम इट इज वेरी हाई, सो देयर द चांसेस बिकम क्वाइट लीन. अदरवाइज ये होता सब में, ऐसा नहीं है कि नहीं होता है, ठीक है जी. अब आता हूं मैं थर्ड इंपॉर्टेंट पोर्शन पे, दैट इज Z वर्सेस कैट. की कैट के मुकाबले Z में what extra do you have to do, what all things are to be done. So now this is the important part, that Z and CAT. So till now whatever you were doing all your preparations according to CAT, I think, right? You must be doing everything that okay, this all appears in CAT, this does not appear in CAT, so I should be doing it or not doing it. So अभी तक हम लोग ऐसा करते थे, but now when I talk about Z versus CAT, so I'm talking about those things now in which I can say कि आपको ये चीजें करनी है for Z, you have not done them till now for CAT. अब ये आपको करनी पड़ेगी. So Ishan, I'm sorry I don't know that. I think you have to find it out from internet once. सेल्फ स्टडी Z की तैयारी कैसे कर रहे हैं? बहुत बड़ा क्वेश्चन है गोयली, won't be able to answer. ये तो इसके लिए I mean it needs time to answer this question. Okay, a few things. How is this different? So first of all, it is about verbal ability. So how is verbal ability different? As you can see on your screen, you have questions from critical reasoning in verbal ability, which is of course absent in CAT. And second thing is there would be questions based upon vocab as well. There can be questions based upon antonyms, synonyms. There can be questions based upon fill in the blanks, that is basically grammar. There can be questions based upon analogy, जिसमें vocabulary again use हो सकती है. So these are some of the areas on which they can ask you questions in Z. Right? Critical reasoning surely would be there. Though critical reasoning based questions are there in GMAT, CAT में नहीं आते हैं, but ZAT does ask you questions based upon that. That is critical reasoning and vocab based questions. This is the first thing. How is it different? The second thing is decision making. Of course, this is the game changer. I call it a game changer. The simple reason is decision making is not there in any other exam apart from ZAT. Therefore, we don't prepare for decision making throughout the year, right? At this stage, we start preparing for it. People who prepare for it, of course, they can make a big change because one complete section is decision making. It is not like only 3-4 questions come from decision making. So even if we don't do, still probably we can make it. No, if you do not do decision making, you cannot make it in CAT, right? In Z. So therefore, decision making becomes a game changer over here. And yes, many people say, sir, decision making kaise karenge? There is so much of subjectivity in those questions that they always ask you that which is the best possible option among the given, what should a person do? That is very opinion based thing, very individualistic. So how can we say that there is one correct answer for that question? But Z, they actually create all these questions so beautifully that you can actually prove it, right? You can prove it that only this answer is correct and no other answer is correct. And you will get to know about it when you prepare for decision making by yourself. When you'll be appearing for the previous year papers of Z, तब आपको idea लगेगा actually Z में ऐसा होता है. Decision making is actually that kind of question. By doing that, you will get to know about it. Okay. Third thing is quantitative ability and DI. So more conceptual based questions would be there now. राइट, कॉन्सेप्ट बेस्ड। जैसे कैट में इट इज मोर अबाउट स्पीड, ऑफ कोर्स कॉन्सेप्ट इज ऑल्सो इंपॉर्टेंट, आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट कॉन्सेप्ट इज नॉट दैट इंपॉर्टेंट, कॉन्सेप्ट तो ऑफ कोर्स दैट इज द बेसिस ऑफ एवरीथिंग, बट Z gives you a lot of time, so conceptually they would be slightly on a higher level, but the speed would not be required as such. So we would not say in Z you would be looking for questions in which you can solve the questions using options or any alternative approaches, because you have a lot of time to do the paper, right? So as you can see that you have a total of 165 minutes and you can move on to different sections as well. So the time given to you is a lot. तो आपके पास इतना टाइम है that you can do those questions in that time, that's a possibility. So therefore in Z you have to focus more on the concepts first of all. Second thing, number system and modern maths, these are two areas from which CAT generally don't ask you many questions. For example, if I talk about CAT 2021, which was recently held, so you must have seen there was only one question from modern maths and there was only one question from number system. Whereas in Z, the number of questions from modern maths, PNC and probability can be 2, 3 as well, and from number system it can go up to 4, 5 as well. So these are the two areas which will be more important for Z with respect to CAT. So this is also that you have to pay attention to. Okay. So how is Xavier's Bangalore? Xavier's Bangalore is a good college. Siddharth, I mean मतलब इन चीजों के लिए वो बहुत सारी चीजों पे डिपेंड करता है, फॉर whom you are talking, for which course you are talking. So वैसा नहीं बोल सकते कि हाँ अच्छा है बुरा है कैसा कहना. MBA CET, so of course out of the purview Rahul Deshmukh, I'm sorry. So now about these three things I'll be talking about in detail, about one by one about all the three things. So let us start with the most important area here, and that area is decision making. So I call this area as the game changer. I call this area as the area in which which can definitely make a difference in your score if you prepare it well. So if you look at decision making, the few important points about decision making are: the first most important thing, it can be improved within a week. Rather, it can be improved within a टाइम फ्रेम ऑफ 2-3 days एज वेल. ये भी पॉसिबल है कि 2-3 दिन में हो जाए, लेकिन आप वीक में तो डेफिनेटली ही इंप्रूव कर सकते हैं. ओके, सो इट कैन डेफिनेटली बी इंप्रूव्ड इन ए वीक. दिस इज द फर्स्ट इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. The second, some of you are asking some questions. I see Siddharth, Gopal, Goyali and Rahul Deshmukh. Ritesh Deshmukh ne kaha. So we will be talking about your questions at the end of the session. Currently stick to Z if possible. जैसे MBA फाइनेंस में प्लेसमेंट ROI कैसी है, ये बहुत आउट ऑफ परव्यू क्वेश्चन हो जाएगा, इसके बारे में हम बात नहीं कर पाएंगे. सो इफ यू हैव एनी जनरल क्वेश्चंस वी कैन टॉक अबाउट देम एट द एंड ऑफ द सेशन. आई विल गिव यू एन ओपन हाउस, वहां पे आप पूछ लीजिएगा. हाँ जी. So it can be improved in a week, and I have improved myself in decision making. I appeared for it 1 year, and in 2 days I could improve my decision making by using one single session. Because as I told you, it is very logical. बहुत बढ़िया है, ठीक है. लॉजिकल सा टॉपिक होता है डिसीजन मेकिंग, एंड यू कैन एक्चुअली सी दैट विच ऑप्शन इज रॉन्ग एंड व्हाई इज इट रॉन्ग. इट इज नॉट दैट वर्बल एबिलिटी इन विच समटाइम्स वी गेट कंफ्यूज्ड, राइट, कि ये क्यों गलत होगा और ये क्यों सही होगा. But in decision making, it is very crystal clear. The kind of questions that ask you, it is crystal clear. Previous year papers are the best way of preparing for decision making. The best part for you is, हमारे लिए सबसे अच्छी बात डिसीजन मेकिंग में ये है कि प्रीवियस ईयर के हमारे पास बहुत सारे पेपर्स अवेलेबल हैं. So Z every year releases their paper. So since 2003-4 you might get all the papers of Z online as well. अगर आप ढूंढेंगे तो आपको सारे papers मिल जाएंगे. So from all those papers you can go for decision making and prepare for it. And the third one is the most important part. There are 21 questions in decision making. In a paper where the cutoff is around 31-32, you have 21 questions from a section where no one has an edge. Why no one has an edge? In Quant or LRD, you might say, sir, engineers have an edge. They can do it faster. In verbal ability, you can say, nee, some people are already good at verbal ability because of their educational background. So we can't improve that. These things cannot be improved overnight. This is something that you can improve overnight. No one will have an edge over you in decision making. This is a very important point, that if you prepare for it, within a week you can be equal to those people who are preparing for decision making for ages. Let us say कोई है इंसान ऐसा जिसे लगता था मेरा ड्रीम कॉलेज XLRI है, तो मैंने 10th क्लास में ही DM पढ़ना शुरू कर दिया. Still you can be equivalent to that guy within a week. That makes it a very very important point. डिसीजन मेकिंग का सबसे बढ़िया बात यह है, प्रीवियस ईयर पेपर्स में यू हैव लॉट्स ऑफ क्वेश्चंस टू प्रैक्टिस इट फ्रॉम देयर, टू अंडरस्टैंड इट फ्रॉम देयर, राइट, एंड you can improve it in a very less time. These are important points of decision making. Then came the second important thing, that is the verbal ability section. Okay, critical reasoning, vocab based questions. Apart from that, what all is there in verbal ability? As I said, CR practice is must, because again CR is something that you would not have done before, because in CAT it was not there, so you have to do that. Vocabulary, probably you have put it 2 steps behind, because of course vocabulary is not going to be there in my CAT exam, so I can keep it on the backstage, so later on we can talk about it. Now is the time to talk about vocabulary as well, because not only it will be important in ZET, it will be important in SNAP as well as IFT or the other exams as well. You find questions from antonyms, synonyms and all from vocabulary. And the difference between RCs has to be figured out, that what kind of RCs are asked in CAT and what kind of RCs are asked in ZET. Okay, the kind of questions that will be asked to you from those RCs, what is the difference between them? Are they more inference based questions or theme based questions, or whatever types are there in an RC? So if you are preparing for it, of course you will get to know about it. And again I say, the previous year papers that are available with you, ठीक है, उससे बढ़िया तो कोई सोर्स ही नहीं है. Just go through those papers, you will be able to figure out कि मुझे कहाँ से क्या पढ़ना है, कैसे पढ़ना है. You will get to know that what is the difference between these things. CR कैसा आता है, what questions are there vocabulary based, so how much different is it from CAT. You will get to know about all those things. Okay, so some people are asking some questions now. How many days you are going to teach us for ZET? Indrajit, these are the free sessions I am taking. So apart from these, I would not be taking any sessions. LR was very difficult in CAT. Nikita, again out of her view. Decision making की practice कहाँ से करें? गोयली, I have already answered it. Previous year papers सबसे बढ़िया तरीका है. और ZET का कोर्स आप definitely join कर सकते हैं गोयली. Just go to BYJU'S exam prep channel. You'll get to know about it. Where to find best material for preparation of decision making? Zeal, again I have already answered. Previous year papers. How to prep for SNAP and ZET together? These are two different exams, Alex. The level of difficulty is also very different. The only thing is that the syllabus would be the same, ठीक है, but you have to check them separately कि उसमें किस level के questions आते हैं और इसमें किस level के questions आते हैं. I am scoring good marks in ZET mock, but I could not clear section cutoff for cons. Should I apply for XLRI with taking note of time remaining? So why are you thinking about whether I should be applying for XLRI, or why shouldn't you think about how should I clear my cutoff of ZET QA section? And you can, it is not difficult, right? So please look at that. If you are clearing the overall cutoff, so quant की भी cutoff यार clear कर सकते हो ना. Why don't you apply for it? You have 1 complete month left for it. Had it been about IFT, I would have said okay, don't apply. Okay? But if it is about ZET, which is still 1 month away, you have 30 days for it. So why don't you prepare? Okay? Quant की भी clear करो यार, overall अगर हो रही है तो ये भी करो. Okay? Now we have talked about decision making, we have talked about verbal ability. Now comes the third section, which is quantitative ability and data interpretation. So we have more conceptual questions, as I told you, questions based upon number system, modern maths, this all would be there. So now what all is to be done for quantitative ability and data interpretation? First of all, just like IFT, ZET also asks you sometimes very lengthy questions. You have to be ready for those, right? Because you have a lot of time, of course, so therefore they would be asking you lengthy questions. So you have to be ready for those things. That questions can be lengthy. Sometimes even after being lengthy, they can be difficult as well. ठीक है, normally हम लोग CAT में बोलते हैं, if the question is lengthy, normally the question otherwise is easy. बट यहाँ लेंथी होने के साथ साथ डिफिकल्ट भी हो सकता है. दैट्स अ पॉसिबिलिटी. ठीक है, और कॉन्सेप्चुअल क्लैरिटी आपको चाहिए ही चाहिए. अगर कॉन्सेप्चुअल बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस है तो मॉडर्न मैथ्स नंबर्स आपको करना ही करना है. यस, वन थिंग आई फॉरगॉट ओवर हियर, दैट इज डेटा इंटरप्रिटेशन. राइट, so check data interpretation of all Z papers from previous year papers, of course, and understand it that what kind of DI ZAT ask you. So last year, if there were 28 questions in QA DI section, if I'm not wrong, there were 9 questions from data interpretation, and 9 is a big number, right? और cutoff ही 9-10 का होता है. So if you are good at DI but not very good at quant, still you can clear the cutoff of ZAT. And I remember very clearly all those 9 questions were doable. ऐसा नहीं है कि इतने टफ थे, जैसे इस साल कैट में LRDI one set was there which was completely not doable during the exam time. I mean very good students must have done it, लेकिन ज्यादातर लोग नहीं कर पाते उसको. बट ऐसा जेट में नहीं होता. All decision making data interpretation questions were doable last year as well. Okay. So again some questions. What are your questions? Is it possible to score good percentile in ZAT in 1 month? Definitely possible, सात्विक. उसी के बारे में तो बात कर रहा हूं. यही तो मैंने बोला, डिसीजन मेकिंग एक ऐसा एरिया है जो आपके परसेंटाइल को सडनली 60 से 98 ले जा सकता है. ठीक है, इतना इंप्रूवमेंट इसमें आ सकता है. Can we say that preparing for ZAT is enough to cover up the syllabus of SNAP and NMAT without putting any special attention to these 2 exams? Mayank, if I give you an analogy, you are asking me this question, that if we learn how to drive a truck, so can we drive a car as well as scooter and scooty? So those are very small vehicles with respect to a truck, but of course the flavor is different, right? So you have to do some mocks for all of those. The syllabus might be same, but still you have to understand it by giving the mocks, that okay, this is this. बिकॉज सबके करने की स्ट्रेटेजी भी अलग है ना. जेट आई टोल्ड यू इट्स अ कॉन्सेप्ट बेस्ड एग्जाम, लेकिन स्नैप इज स्पीड बेस्ड एग्जाम. सो यू कैन नॉट कंपेयर कि ठीक है उसके लिए प्रिपेयर कर लिया ये तो हो ही जाएगा. सो दैट डज नॉट हैपन. ए पर्सन हु कैन क्लियर यूपीएससी एग्जाम प्रोबेबली माइट नॉट बी एबल टू क्लियर एसएससी एग्जाम, क्योंकि उनका फ्लेवर अलग है. दैट इज द इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट विच यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. What is a good score to get 95%? Shitji, that is completely dependent upon the paper, but yes, going by the previous year's pattern, so I would say around 30 के score पे, 28 से 30 के score पे, you get 95%. How much arithmetic questions they ask you? Rahul, again, depend करता है, but yes, every year I have seen around 6-7 questions from arithmetic at least. Negative marking होती है Zeal, और negative marking इसमें वहां भी होती है when you leave a question unattempted, right? So after 8 unattempted questions, I think, after 8 unattempted questions, for every unattempted question, you have a negative marking of 0.1 marks. So basically, if you leave 18 questions, 1 mark would be deducted, right? If you leave 28 questions, 2 marks would be deducted. So that way, ZAT is the only exam where there is a negative marking for unattempted questions as well, though it is not this high that you have to bother about it. ठीक है, 0.1 पे नेगेटिव आ रही, तो इस चक्कर में मैं बहुत सारे क्वेश्चन नहीं कर डालूंगा कि अरे नेगेटिव मार्किंग हो जाएगी. नो, डोंट डू दैट. ओके, गोयली, you have to check it on the website, or you can call up at the number which I'll be giving you at the end of it. ठीक है, so they'll be able to help you out. Okay, just open the app and I think you'll get the details from there. Okay, so these were the 3 areas. Now I come to the last part of the session, which is the 30-day strategy. करना क्या चाहिए इन 30 days में? That is what I'm going to talk about now. So according to me, a 30-day schedule should look like this. 30 days means roughly 4 weeks. So I'm giving you a weekly schedule for it. And I've just already talked about the important components of it. जितने भी important components है, क्या क्या होना चाहिए, क्या क्या नहीं होना चाहिए. So this is how it should go on. So according to me, in the first week, all of you should start with decision making and start with your vocabulary. Improve your vocabulary. Start with that in this week only, starting from today. Okay, decision making and vocabulary, start reading them, and in this week you have to write a mock and you have to analyze it very thoroughly. That is very important, right? Because when you start doing decision making, when you start doing vocabulary, mock will give you an idea what kind of decision making would be there in your exam. राइट, सो आप मॉक दे रहे हैं, एनालिसिस कर रहे होंगे, तो वही डिसीजन मेकिंग के व्हेन यू स्टार्ट डूइंग दोस क्वेश्चंस, यू विल गेट एन आइडिया कि कौन से आंसर्स गलत है, कौन से आंसर सही है, क्यों है. सो यू विल गेट एन आइडिया अबाउट दोस. इट विल हेल्प यू टू अंडरस्टैंड डिसीजन मेकिंग. सो आई थिंक फॉर द फर्स्ट वीक योर एजेंडा शुड बी, आई हैव टू डू अ लॉट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस ऑन डिसीजन मेकिंग. आई हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड द फंडामेंटल्स ऑफ इट. ठीक है, सो आई हैव टू डू वोकैबुलरी एज वेल, एंड one mock I have to do in this week. This is the first week's agenda. Then comes the second week. In the second week, I would say start doing critical reasoning, modern maths and number system. So now the remaining part you have to work out in the second week. Critical reasoning पे आपको ध्यान देना है. You have to do a lot of questions based upon that. Modern maths, which you would have left aside probably for CAT, now you have to pay attention to that. Number system you might have put aside, so now you have to pay attention to that. So in the second week, I think your agenda should be to do critical reasoning, modern maths, number system. Apart from that, 2 mocks and their analysis. Right? दो मुझे लगता है एनालिसिस लिखने की जरूरत नहीं है. We have been telling this from day one कि mock is useless if you don't analyze. Right? So mock automatically means writing a mock and then analyzing it for twice the time in which you appeared for that paper. तकरीबन दुगना टाइम लगता है उसको एनालाइज करने में. That you have to do in the second week. In the third week, I would say, because we have a lot of previous year papers of that, solve all of them, especially decision making. I am paying a lot of attention to decision making because this is the game changer. Keep that in mind. You can score a score like 17, 18 in decision making. In the other two, even if you just clear the cutoff, you will have an overall percentile of around 99.5, 99.6. This is the impact that decision making can make, and this is a section which can be prepared within a week. So how beautiful is that? So in the third week, I would say, जो आपने पहले week में decision making पढ़ा था, उस decision making को अच्छे से you have to practice in the third week, write a mock, analyze it properly, and do a lot of previous year papers. Right? In the complete week, हर रोज 2 पेपर कर डालो, daily 2 पेपर करते रहो. On one of the days you write a mock and analyze it. On the other days you have to do the previous year papers. Okay? And in the fourth week, जो कर चुके हो वो सब हो चुका है. Just do 3 mocks and analyze them properly. ठीक है? 3 mocks and analyze them properly. This is what you have to do in the fourth week. According to me, this is a 30-day schedule. In the last 2 days, of course, we'll always say chill करो, अच्छे खासी मूवीज वगैरह देखो, कुछ टीवी सीरीज देखो और आराम करो. बट यस, लास्ट के आपके जो बचे हुए 4 वीक्स में, इफ यू रियली वांट टू clear that, I think this is the best thing that you can do. The first week, decision making and vocabulary. The second week, CR, modern maths and number system. The third week, all previous year papers. And the fourth week, 3 XAT mocks and their proper analysis. I think this is the unbeatable strategy which can help you sail through the exam. And that is all that I wanted to say. This is all from my side, guys. I'll take up some questions, but before that, I'll like to tell you that the image that you see on the screen is about IFT analysis, which will be taking on this Sunday. So I, along with Gautam sir, we both would be with you at 2 p.m. on this 5th of December, that is day after tomorrow. We'll be talking about everything in IFT. कितनी कट ऑफ जा सकती है, सेक्शनल कट ऑफ क्या जा सकती है, कैसा डिफिकल्टी लेवल था, कितने क्वेश्चन करने चाहिए. We'll be talking about all those on this coming day. Okay, so now you can have your questions. Please ask me whatever you want to ask. I'll be happy to answer all your questions. So कहाँ तक मैं आंसर कर चुका हूँ, वहां तक. So मीनार सर, कैट आंसर की कब आएगी? मीनार, I think it might be out by tomorrow. You don't know. Any sectional cutoffs? Indrajit, we have already talked about that in the beginning of the session. Once you replay it, I think you will find it out. IFT paper postponed for 7 center. Oh, I have no idea, Richajan. I think I just know that for all the people कि IFT ने ये जरूर किया है that you have to check your school admit card again. So for some of the people probably it have, as you are telling me कि postpone हो गया कुछ लोगों के लिए. I did not know this. How to prepare for modern maths and do? ईशान दुबे, अगर अभी तक नहीं किया है, go to NCERT book, read it from there. It's not such a big area, so you can still do it within a week. QA and DI topic wise weightage. Satvik, I have already discussed it. 9 questions from DI, remaining questions from QA. Vocab की strategy, I think some verbal ability would be, faculty would be able to tell you better about that. Will that lead to normalization? Of course, Richa Jan, that will have to be done. आकाश क्या कह रहे हैं? How are you sir? बहुत दिनों के बाद. Thank you आकाश. Same here. And sir, GK is required to be prepared a lot. Not a lot, Souvik, but yes, for the people who are aiming for XLRI only, I would say GK is a must. You have to do that. ZRC easier than CAT, that you have to decide, Vineet. Go through the previous year papers. You have already appeared for CAT. Do it and decide it by yourself. How is Xavier's Bangalore for MBA finance placement and ROI by Siddharth? Xavier's Bangalore नाम से कोई कॉलेज नहीं है. It must be either XIMB or something else should be there. XISS है, एक XIMB है, एक XLRI है. कौन सा कॉलेज है उसका नाम कुछ और होगा. Sir, are you going to take questions, discussions like you did for CAT, sir? Vicky, possibly I might in the upcoming days. Just stay tuned with BYJU'S exam prep. I think I'll be taking some sessions like that. Safe marks for 99 percentile. Anvesha, there is no safe mark because that depends upon the paper. सेफ तो फिर वही है 75 अगर 76 क्वेश्चंस हैं इवन 74 कैन बी सेफ बट यस गोइंग बाय द प्रीवियस फ्यू इयर्स पैटर्न आई वुड से 99 परसेंटाइल के लिए आई थिंक 40 वुड बी ए सेफ स्कोर 40 से ऊपर पक्का ही 99 आ जाना चाहिए अंदाजा मेरा ये एक्सिलरी के कॉल के लिए सेफ परसेंटाइल कितना होना चाहिए प्रलय वी हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड इट इट्स अराउंड 33 34 राइट फॉर द बीएम कोर्स बट यस इफ द एग्जाम इज डिफिकल्ट कीप दिस डिस्क्लेमर विद ऑल दी स्टेटमेंट्स बार बार नहीं बताऊंगा कि हो सकता है ये बहुत ऊपर चला जाए बहुत नीचे डिफिकल्टी लेवल पे डिपेंड करता है नो सात्विक इट डज नॉट विनीत XIMB में एक भुवनेश्वर का जो है दैट इज द बेस्ट कॉलेज बेंगलोर इज डेफिनेटली गुड बट नॉट बेटर देन भुवनेश्वर फॉर श्योर मेजर पार्ट्स फ्रॉम नंबर सिस्टम इन दैट नो इट इज नॉट इट इज XIMB बेंगलोर सिद्धार्थ XIME हाँ XIME है बेंगलोर में XIME बेंगलोर इज नॉट अ वेरी गुड कॉलेज आई वुड से आई मीन उतनी अच्छी रेपुटेशन नहीं है कॉलेज की जितनी XIMB XLRI गोवा इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ मैनेजमेंट या फिर SP जैन या माइका वगैरह की है सो आई थिंक इन सबके बाद आएगा कहीं रेटिंग में XIMB anything on step strategy we'll be having sessions on that zeal so do just stay tuned with us we will be talking about snap strategy too. Okay everyone, I hope I have answered all your questions. So that's all from my side. Yes, we are also running these batches. One is the non-CAT exam batch, one is for CAT 2022. So anyone, as some people were asking about this, are you having any batch? So this is the information about that. This is the number that you have to call. So Goyali, you are asking this question, so just call up at this number. They'll give you idea about it. Okay, this is our brilliant team who would be teaching you here at BYJU'S exam prep. All of them are extremely experienced and of course masters of their areas, and that's all guys. Please like the session before leaving. That's all from my side. I hope this would have been helpful for you. Thank you very much guys. Good night. Bye bye. Take care now. Bye bye.